One of the things that I wanted to talk about with you is capital raising. I feel like you might be able to write the book on it at this point, but just for any young entrepreneurs out there who are just getting started, any tips and tricks just in terms of navigating those first dollars that you're bringing in the door?
Oh boy. I'd never raised money before this, so this was a new experience. I'm sure I made every mistake in the book. I think the biggest thing is like just get ready for rejection. It's a numbers game. You're going to be turned down a lot, but don't let that kind of make you question yourself. Rather, try and learn from those conversations and just continually improve. And you're going to figure it out eventually. Yeah. But if the idea has any sort of merit to it and you have experience in what you're doing, like you're going to end up, finding the money for the business. But you can't let kind of the rejection and the negativity, if you will, from people that aren't interested just eat you away, because it will.
Yeah. I was gonna add, there's definitely something to just like having to put yourself out there. You're so vulnerable with just your business, your vision, and having people just reject you for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So like, it is humbling, but also it's so sweet when you do get those yeses. Like when we went out and raised money, I remember like the second or third check that came in for Noble, I was just like, for whatever reason, just having a long day, and it came in. I was like, wow, it just made everything better and felt great. And gave us a gust of wind. So there is something too about assembling that team of investors that really believes in what you're doing and finding, I would almost frame it as just like finding the team that believes in you. They're out there, and go assemble that team, and you'll feel great once you have them aligned with your vision.
Yeah. And it's crazy too. Like the checks you end up getting, or, the investors, like relationships that you build, they end up coming in ways you wouldn't have expected. Like you could take a call with somebody and you're like, oh man, this money in the bank. Like they're already in CPG. They know this space. They're going to love this. Hard no. And then you come around to somebody that doesn't even necessarily know the space, but you just really connect on a personal level. And that matters so much more. I think if you can show potential investors that you're a person of character and you are relatable, and like you like to have fun and you enjoy some of the same things, like that type of bond is a lot more meaningful than, some VC or something like that that's just looking to make a quick buck and they know the industry.
Yeah, what you said is like almost word for word what Harry and I had experienced last summer, because similar to you, it was our first time raising capital for Noble. And so we had done like 25K. We were basically pre-revenue at that point, and we were, worried about our projections and potential P&L and really nitty gritty around the numbers. And then after the first couple conversations, we were both amazed how many investors were just like hearing our story about how we met, playing college baseball, doing the Ironman, doing 200 episodes of the podcast at the time. And that's what they really wanted to dig into.
Yep.
And it felt, they obviously cared about the numbers too, but they were almost like betting on us as their horses almost versus anything else. So I'm curious, you touched on the relationship piece. Was there anything else that surprised you during the capital raising process too, that you maybe had preconceived notions of that, surprised you when you actually went through and made the rounds?
This was more of a negative surprise, but it was the amount of people that will commit money and then end up backing out.
Yes.
I mean, we had a lot of money committed at different times that didn't end up coming through. And whenever that happened, it would just like tear me up. It was really upsetting and frustrating because you'd put all this work into it. But at the end of the day, it's like, no, you just let it rub off. Like that stuff happens, and you just have to move on and figure out ways to kind of fight through the mental battles that come through that experience.
What are some of the things that investors would say about your brand? Like one of the things that when I see your guys' brand, I'm like, this is such a sleek looking, I like the throwback, the vintage style that you guys have. Like what sort of things were resonating with them just on the brand level?
Yeah, I mean, I think people saw it as like new, unique, and different, which, you know, a lot of stuff in our category is not. It's kind of stayed. It's funny, like you can look at Prime, for example. Like, you know, they've had a ton of success, but then you see all these like copycat products that are starting to come out. So even the same bottle.
Yeah.
Messi's is literally the same thing with a different logo.
Right.
Yeah, different name. But everything Messi just created.
Yeah,
really?
it's called Moss.
Oh,
Yeah.
Dude, it is the same.
Same
The
thing.
bottle's the exact same.
Probably
Same color
same.
scheme, same flavors.
That's so crazy.
So I think, I mean, in some ways it can be challenging because you're trying to go against the grain and do something different, and somebody that sees that is like, maybe that's, you know, a little bit too risky. But that also means that you're differentiated, and there's almost like a higher ceiling because you're trying to do something different. So I think the reaction of the brand was generally really positive. The biggest question people had was like, how are you going to kind of educate the customer and make sure they're aware that they know what this is and why it's so great, because you are being different. And so once you start having those questions and thoughts from people, then you can figure out a way to kind of navigate and answer those questions.
And I do feel like the space that we're in is still somewhat niche, but I do really feel like whether it's hydration, sourcing meat, food quality, etc., I do feel like that stuff's definitely starting to become more mainstream because of social media. Like, I don't think quite as many people now versus 5 years ago have the like same aversion to salt that we used to have as well too. Like, I feel like the market trend, it's really good timing for that. And then you also make something that's really healthy ingredients, but also tastes delicious too. Like, you genuinely enjoy sipping on it as well.
Yeah, it's funny. You know, it's like a lot of middle-aged men that I meet when I'm networking or whatnot. They like want to just talk to me about biohacking and health stuff, and I'm like, where did this come from?
Yeah,
you know. But it's people like y'all, and it's the Dave Aspreys of the world, people that are putting out a lot of interesting content that makes you think about stuff. And the more you kind of dig in, the more you realize, like I need to make some lifestyle changes. And it's cool to see that trend really taking place right now.
Yeah. What would you say are some of the most special wins for you that stick out over the last year and a half?
Man, I think I often need to like zoom out a little bit and look back and kind of recognize the wins, because that's not how my brain works. My brain is like more like, oh, we have a problem here, let's go solve this. I mean, the coolest thing that happened last year was we got a call from Nike headquarters, and they're like, hey guys, we're trying to find a replacement for Gatorade on campus. We really like your product. Send us some samples. You know, we'll taste it, give it a shot. And they ended up coming back to us and like, all right, great, we're moving forward. This will be throughout the campus. We're going to replace Gatorade. And that was like,
That's so cool.
Such a cool moment. You know, this company that you kind of worship growing up, right? So getting out there to Beaverton and like doing a launch day with them and realizing like some of the top athletes in the world are drinking our product right now as they're like testing, you know, new products and whatnot at Nike. That was a really cool experience. I think outside of that, like it's kind of finding traction in the small things, right? Like, it's easy to get really excited about these like big sexy headlines or you win this award or whatnot. But I think just when you're in the day-to-day grind and you're like working on a specific retail account, or you're trying to like refine your sales process, starting to see how the little tweaks you're making they're actually working, and like, oh, I'm now seeing that our velocities at this central market have tripled because we just, you know, tweaked a couple things here. That to me is like the coolest experience you can have as a early stage business owner, because you're launching something that you really have no idea how people are going to react to it, and then you're kind of like problem solving until you start to see those wins come in.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective. I feel like just going back and going through the wins is such a hard thing to do as a founder.
Yeah, because there's more losses than wins for
Yes.
sure.